That was it, only because we are still going through our series. And today is not about mothers. No. I honestly think that throughout this lesson we will find bits and pieces of how we should be living. But if you had a wonderful mother in your life, and you've seen the mistakes that she made, and still yet she got up each and every day. Whether it was the mistakes that was there when you were a child or when you were an adult, or even just those moments of love. The greatest thing that I always love about these particular holidays is you can't learn how to parent unless you learn from God Himself. Because the greatest gift of all is sacrifice. And I really don't want to say His name, but I have to. Jesus Christ. I don't want to front load here, that's why. But the greatest gift of all that He gave is the greatest gift that you can all give to your own children. Sacrifice. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just waking up each day and loving with all your heart is what was required. And we are all witnesses to that. Amen? And so here today, we are actually moving into our new era, patriarchs. And Mark, if you would put that up on the screen, please. We have quite a few eras that we're going through. And yes, we are still in Genesis. And it's what, May already? But a lot has happened in Genesis. But as well as we move into our patriarchs, now you're going to start hearing names that we've heard throughout the scriptures. This is the foundation that the Israelites, Hebrews, are growing up to know. How to adapt my life to these pillars, these great ancestors of the faith. And so here we're at patriarchs, and we're about to be all the way done until the last, what does that say? Return, thank you. I need glasses. Until return. And so today what we're going to focus on is the blessings or the promises that was given to Abram. You may know his name by Abraham, but he doesn't receive that particular name yet. We know him as Abram today. And so just before we get there, I want to give you a brief recap on what we have been focusing on over the last few weeks. And it starts in Genesis 5:21 through 32. And I spoke on the blessings in the lineage. See, and 21 it says, Enoch lived 65 years, and I'm not going to have you read the begot and died again. But I want you to see here, Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And after he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God. He said, once I became a parent, then my mind shifted. My mind started to change, and when you became a parent yourself, the old things passed away, and you then decided, I need to start thinking about my child rather than about me. And after he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had sons and daughters. Enoch at this very moment made a decision, I need to make a shift in my line, in my family, that there needs to be somewhat of a blessing that needs to come through my family. And so I'm going to get on my knees and pray to God. I'm going to decide to have a relationship with God. And we see that because of his prayers, he shifted the whole course of his lineage. Yes, he came from Adam, who was created by God himself, but it was normal. Adam had children. Those children had children. And it was generation and generation. But Enoch came to the point, says, I can't keep living like this anymore. There must be a shift in my line. And so all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Imagine that, having a relationship so close to God that you don't even die. Wow. That God just simply takes you out and says, come home with me. That is the relationship we ought to strive to have with God. Rather than living for ourselves, we ought to be living for him. Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. And after he begot Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. But look at this. Lamech lived 182 years and had a son, and called his name Noah. No matter how long it takes, whether it's in my lifetime or not, God, I need you to make a shift in my family. And that's the prayer that you should be making. Lord, even if I see it for myself or even if I don't, make sure my kids are blessed. And this particular evidence shows that prayer does work. Enoch prayed and he said, Lord, let something change. And then generation after generation, here comes Noah. Lamech lived 182 years and so forth on, and called his name Noah. But look at verse 32. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It was his turn to have children and to raise them up in this divine pleasure that they have. And just imagine, as he's raising children, God stops him in the middle of his life and says, hey, I need you to do something. I need you to do something. Because Enoch, his prayer still remained in Noah and his sons, and now he's going to understand the blessings of obedience. We understand that there's a blessing in the lineage, but now with Noah, we understand that there's a blessing in obedience. Follow me here. I know I'm supposed to be talking about Abram, but you have to understand, where does Abram come from? He comes from a family of prayer warriors. And now with Noah, he comes from a family of obedience. Look at Genesis 7. So Noah with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives went into the ark because of the waters of the flood, of clean animals and animals that are unclean, of birds and everything that creeps on the earth. 2 by 2, 7 days. 2 by 2, they went into the ark to Noah, male and female. And look at this, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 7th day of the month, and the day of all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened up, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. But look at verse 13. On the very same day, Noah and Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and Noah's wife, and their 3 wives of his sons were with them, entered the ark. And then verse 16, so that they entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. The fact that Noah obeyed God, him and his family were saved. And so the first point that I want to make to you today is that when you obey God, big things happen. When you obey God, things start to change in your life. And so here, afterwards, we see the sons of Noah, they start to repopulate the earth. After God wipes the whole earth completely, we have two animals of every kind. And we have the family of Noah, and it's just them. And God commands them to be fruitful and multiply. And so now we have the sons of Noah, and they have a big job that they must do. Repopulate the earth. And so last week we then discovered, after they repopulated the earth, sin is still present. That sin nature is still living within us. And so last week we discovered the Tower of Babel, where we see numerous people placing their faith in themselves rather than God, and we saw the results of it. What were the results? Well, I'm glad you asked. Language distorted, all scattered throughout the earth. And here we come with multiple languages, multiple traditions, all throughout the earth. Now you have a glimpse of what the earth is looking like now. Now we begin to talk about the patriarchs of the Bible, where many lands are against one another. Many people are against one another because, one, you can't understand them. And when you can't understand someone, you're against them. And when you're not listening to God, then you get distorted and separated from one another. And here we have the patriarchs starting to come into play, where God is saying, okay, now it starts to call some people out into play. The people who accepted the call of leadership to shepherd and guide the flock of God, it all begins here in Genesis 12. And it says this: Now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse him who curses you. And in all of your families, I love how God still continues to bless the generations that come after. And he says, in all of your families of the earth shall be blessed. Shall be blessed. Here we find a man who went out on faith to trust and obey God and receive promises about him, fathering a great nation. But there were some hiccups on the way. And we're going to explore the background of who Abram is and was. But the obedience to God didn't always look easy. And we can say the same thing about us. When God tells you to do something, do you do it easily? And there are many various factors that went involved in Abram's life, and we're going to see this here. So let's just take a step back here, and I want us to go to chapter 11, because now we are going to figure out who truly is Abram. Where did he come from? What is his background? What did he go through for him to lead up to this very point of God blessing him? And so here in chapter 11, it starts off Shem's descendants. Now, do you see the connection that we're making here? Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth. And now, we're going to see what are Shem's descendants. I'm not going to have you read this once again. This is the genealogy of Shem. And Mark, can you put that picture up, please? As I'm reading this, I want you to see the lineage that comes from Shem. This is the genealogy of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begot Arphaxad, 2 years after the flood, and he begot Arphaxad. Shem lived 500 years and begot sons and daughters. Arphaxad lived 35 years and begot Selah. After he begot Selah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and begot sons and daughters. Selah lived 30 years and begot Eber. After he begot Eber, Selah lived 403 years and begot sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and begot Peleg. And then after Peleg, begot Rehu. And then after Rehu, Serug, then Nahor, Terah, and then Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Throughout these generations, the prayer of Enoch is still at work. Just because you died doesn't mean your prayer stopped working. Because Enoch decided there needs to be a shift, not only was Noah born, but now we have Abram. And so Abram, once again, comes from a long line of prayer, a long line of obedience, a long line of repopulating the earth, seeing era after era, but learning that I must not do what my ancestors have done. There needs to be a change. And here, verses 27 through 30, we have Terah's descendants. This is the genealogy of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Aran. Aran begot Lot. That name should sound familiar. But no front loading. And Haran died before his father Terah in his native land in the Ur of Chaldea. I love how these names in the Bible, when it's giving genealogy and where they're from, it's actually real places. The Ur of the Chaldeans is actually southern Mesopotamia, and it's modern-day Iraq. So to put a picture of where this is all occurring, think about the world map, go back to geography class, and understand where in Iraq it's located. Then Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren, and she had no child. Let me just stop right there. But Sarai was barren and had no child. You have to understand at this point, women who were barren faced shame, grief, and was socially outcasted. Now you have to put a different perspective on this here. When people are barren nowadays, you have the ability to go and adopt a child. But back then, it was a different perspective. But think about the perspective that it comes from Abram. Having a wife who's not able to bear him children. But still, throughout all of this, he still woke up and chose her each and every day. And so my point, too, that I want to make is this. It takes a special man to love a special woman. What does that mean? Abram demonstrated in his relationship with his wife, she is more than motherhood. She may not have the ability to give me a child, but I can go into detail about truly what she means to me. She loves me when at times I can't even love myself. A wife is more than just a birth provider. I know it's Mother's Day, I get it, but I just want to take a true moment here and truly understand the validity that true women brings aside from being a mother. What a woman provides is patience when us men lack them, strength at times when those around them are weak, loyalty, honesty, accountability. The list can go on. Can you think of someone who has been all those things to you and didn't even give birth to you? A woman's value is not limited to what she can produce, but revealed in love, strength, wisdom, and the presence she brings in the lives of others. Am I preaching to someone today? Abram said, that's my woman and I'm sticking beside her. Men, take this time to make sure that you have a woman that holds these qualities before you put a baby in her. Make sure she has these qualities. Let's move on. Verse 31, and Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, and his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. Let me show you how life was for Abram growing up in the Ur of the Chaldeans. Look at Joshua 24. And it says, and Joshua said to all the people, thus says the Lord God of Israel, your fathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nahor, dwelt on the other side of the river in old times, and they served other gods. Abram was an idol worshiper. Then God called him to fulfill his purposes. Let me remind you of something. Your past doesn't dictate your calling. No matter what you went through in your past, it will not determine what God has in store for you for your life. No matter what sin you committed, God will use you to accomplish his plan. And that's what you need to be reminded of. Some of us, we go day by day, oh God, how can you truly use me, messed up me, dirty me? Yet he still called Abram. An idol worshiper, a person who prayed for years to a God that doesn't exist, yet God still used him. No matter what you've done, when God calls you, your life will never be the same. And so look at that last part of verse 31. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. They came to Haran. It was only supposed to be Abram who should have left. And we're going to see that here. Verse 1, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. Leave your family, leave everyone behind, and go follow the instructions that I tell you to do. So the days of Terah were 200 years and 5 years, and Terah died in Haran. And this is the point I want to make. Disobedience causes delay. Disobedience causes delay. Well, how do we know that? Look at Acts chapter 7, verses 2 through 4. And it said, brethren and fathers, listen, the God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he dwelt in Haran, and said to him, get out of your country and from your relatives and come to a land that I will show you. Then he came out of the land of the Chaldeans and dwelt in Haran, and from there, when his father was dead, he moved him to the land in which you now dwell. This man took many stops to get to where God wanted him to be. Not only did he stop, he decided to bring everyone else along with him. His disobedience caused him to experience time wasted in Haran, experiencing the death of his father. Your disobedience doesn't just affect you, but affects those around you. Your disobedience to God doesn't just have an effect on you. It affects your whole family. Imagine if Abram was obedient and left his family, his father would still be alive. I'll just pause right there. Think about that. Is your obedience to God at the right level? That's a touchy subject. And so now we come to our text, Genesis 12. Verse 1, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. God is telling Abram, I can't do what I want to do until you leave your current circumstances. Until you leave your current environment. I can't develop you into the man, the woman that I made you to be because of the area and the people you still feel comfortable with. Sometimes we are removed from our comfortability just so we can truly see the need for God in our lives. Some of us, God told us to leave certain places and certain people behind. But yet you were so comfortable in your sin that you remained there. And through this, you were disobedient to God. And how did that affect your life? How did that affect your life? And so here's the point that I want to make. Separation leads to elevation. What does that truly mean? I can't elevate you, promote you, rise your position because you're still hanging around the people that I told you not to. You are still hanging around the places I told you not to. Were there places where you were like, I got to go to this bar? There's so much liquor in that bar. And as soon as you enter that place, God says, leave. Leave this place. And what did you do? Oh, I'm sticking around. I got friends here. I got people to see, places to be. Let me stick around for just a bit more. And did you end up in trouble? Trust me, there are a few places I've been where I felt so uncomfortable because it wasn't my nature and I needed to leave. When God calls you to separate, it's for a purpose. And so here at verse 2 to 3, it says, I will make you a great nation. If you do this, if you leave your country, if you leave your family, if you leave your father's house, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. This is the plan I have for you. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you, and in all of your families of the earth shall be blessed. But here, Abram is like, whoa, buddy, I hope you understand here. Let's look at our current circumstances. My wife is barren. She cannot have children. And you're telling me that my families are going to be blessed? The line ends with me. When I die, my line dies. Are you truly sure about this? But here is a reminder. God specializes in impossible blessings. Yes. Can I have a witness to that? Yes. That no matter what you went through, when you didn't even see a way out of your situation, God stepped in and made a way out of no way. Yes. He specializes in impossible blessings. When we obey God and follow Him, our disbelief becomes a miracle. When you don't see a way out, he makes a way. God says, once I place my hand on you, the life you once lived will shift and change. When my hand is placed on you, your life is anointed for my use. We have to remind ourselves of that. People say, oh, if I come to Christ, my life is going to get better. It just may, but not the way you think about it. You might still be poor. You might still be living in a box. But will you have peace that passes all understanding? Will you be able to go day by day singing praises to the Lord because He's giving you the joy of every morning? Look at Joshua 24:3. Then I took your father Abraham from the other side of the river, led him throughout all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his descendants, and gave him Isaac. If you don't have proof of what God can do in your life, Abraham is the person you ought to look at. He did it for Abram, he can do it for you. Trust in the man who called you by name. He called you out of darkness. He called you into His marvelous light. Why are you doubting His power? Are we thinking about some things that we're going through in our lives right now? And wondering, how is God going to work it out? Trust His timing. Trust His timing. And so verse 4, so Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. Still, Abram only being half obedient. God, you told me to go, all right, I'll go. But can I bring someone along with me? Can I bring someone along with me, please? Not following God's command fully. See, and we can do that sometimes. Not following God's instructions. Why? Because 1, our comfortability. 2, our fear. And 3, our lack of trust. Are any of you feeling comfortable in your sin right now? Any of you being fearful of following God because you might not know what it looks like? Any of you have lack of trust in Him because you want full control of your life and not be able to surrender to Him? But here we learn separation is sometimes required. God calls us to isolate or remove ourselves from people because, watch this, some people are not meant to tag along with you to the top. Let me say that again. Some people are not meant to tag along with you to the top. I know you have a heart of gold. You love everybody. You care for everyone. But let's be honest. Everyone doesn't care about you the same way you care about them. You have given time and effort over and over again, not knowing they will pounce at your first error that you make. See, when God asks you to climb a mountain, the mountain keeps on getting more narrow and narrow to where the point where people are going to be falling off. Everyone is not meant to make it to the top with you because their motives don't align with God. And so when God is telling you, leave them behind, it's not for your own benefit. Not only is it for God's benefit, but it's also for their benefit too. That you're saving them from a life of misery as well. Imagine being next to someone day in, day out, and they hate your guts. That they just hate you. Everything that you do just messes up their spirit. And somehow, some way, when you're close to them, they just keep getting worse and worse and worse, but you're so blinded that you can't even see it until you walk away and find the truth. Until God tells you to step away, you're not only saving yourself, but you're saving them as well. God called Abram to step away from his family because his environment, his society was getting in the way. When God calls you to separate, isolate yourself. But can I also add, you ought to isolate yourself when you're praying and reading every morning. Yes, it's good to pray with your partner. It's okay to pray with friends and family and read. But also God requires isolation too. He requires you to get alone, get in your quiet space, in your prayer closet, and have one-on-one time with him. And so here, the next part of that verse, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Imagine how many years it took Abram to leave Haran. The city he decided to dwell in was his decision and not God's himself. See, when you follow your own will and not God's, the plan you're in will of becomes uncomfortable. It becomes so unsatisfying, you have no other choice but to leave. So imagine the ache that Abram had at nights when he was trying to sleep, and yet God woke him up and said, you need to leave. Have you been in that situation before? Lying next to the person you knew you weren't supposed to be lying next to. You weren't be able to sleep. You won't have comfort. Yet God is telling you to go. And here we continue at verse 5. Then Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. Oh, I love this. I love this. And if you come Wednesday, you'll understand why I love this. So they came to the land of Canaan, which is a completely different environment. Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh, and the Canaanites were then in the land. The Canaanites hated Hebrews. They hated God's people. And so think about Abram in this environment right now. Lord, the place you wanted me to go was here? A place filled with enemies who would kill a Hebrew, let alone his whole family, at will? This must be a trick. This must be false. And here we then to start to doubt God because of the circumstances that is surrounding our blessings. But let me remind you of something. What God has for you is ordained for you. And no one under heaven can stop you from getting it. Let me say this again. Abram came to this land and he saw his enemies and said, God, are you serious? The land that you promised me has people that hate me living in it? But look at verse 7. Then the Lord appeared to Abram, and said, to your descendants, I will give you this land. When God gives you a promise, you ought to stick with that and, what's the phrase? Go to the bank. God told Abram, this is what I wanted to show you. This is the land I'm promising to you. I've been waiting a long time to show this to you. I've been waiting a long time, but you were getting in the way. I told you to leave your family. I told you to leave your country so I can take you to this place and give you a promise. See, your family could be in turmoil, but God is saying, I've been waiting to show you how I'm going to bring you out. Your job, your finances, your circumstances may be in the way, but God is trying to tell you right now, I've been trying to show you how I'm going to make a way. And what does Abram do to this response? And there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him, and he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. When God blesses you, when he shows up mightily in your favor, when he shows you the promises he had for you, your response, hallelujah, is up to be worshiped. This is not just a recommendation. This is a command. Look at Psalm 50:15. Call upon me in the day of trouble, and I will deliver you. And then what does it say? And you shall glorify me. When you call him, and when you obey, and when you seek his face and turn from your wicked ways, then he will deliver you out of your troubles. I need a witness to understand that today. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. When we worship, we are saying yes to his will. When we worship, we're saying, not my will, but thy will be done. Yes to your plan for our lives. Yes to his provisions and not our own. When we worship, we are saying yes to stepping back and giving him full control. You ought to be a living witness to that. That when you worship, you are surrendering yourself and saying, God, not my will, but your will be done. So when you come into the place of worship and you are entering into true worship, it ought to be a sacrifice. It ought to be, I'm giving up myself to have more of you. And when you worship, you are saying, yes, I will trust you. Yes, I will praise you. Yes to your ways. We get all this from Abram's introduction to who God is. Start to obey God so he can lead you to his promises. If your life is in a situation that you don't know how to get out of, I promise you, center yourself with the Lord. And he will provide for you. He will step in your favor and work everything out. Because if he did it before, he will do it again. Think about Abram's life. An idol worshiper. Far from God as possible. Yet God still called him. God still called him by name and said, I have plans for you. And yes, God has plans for you too. And so if you're here at this place right now and you're wondering, I don't know what to do, I promise you, he has plans for you. You may be wondering, I don't know how to trust him because I haven't put my trust in quite a few people and they let me down quite a bit. How can I even trust someone else again? But can I tell you, you're not alone in that? That there have been people in this building alone that had to step out on faith and put their trust in whom they were called. And God turned it around for their favor. If you don't believe them, believe me. That yes, I did stray away from God. But yet he still called me by name. Because he has a plan for you. He has a purpose for you. Trust him. And when you trust him, and he provides all that you need, then your response is to get on your knees and worship. Because when you worship, I'm saying yes to you. Yes, I am relieving control. Yes, I may not know the way out, but you know the way in. Yes, God, do what needs to be done. People are going to leave. People are going to walk away. But it is necessary for God to take you to where he wants you to be. It is necessary. So if you need prayer, I'm actually going to have